Okay, in this video and the next one if we need to, we're going to fill out the spreadsheet and I'll talk you through each step of the way. So the first thing is to put in some of the assumptions that were spelled out in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to do that up here with this row of the market rent. This is the assumptions basically of the market rents across the next 5 years. So we're told in the slides in the PowerPoint that this next year is $18.50, and that's going to increase by 50 cents a year. So I'm just going to put in 50 cents plus the previous year. And I can copy and paste that across. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. And I've got my market rents. And then down here in this section here, I'm going to put in the rents that are going to be applicable to each of those tenants for those years. So Xantham is going to expire at the end of year 1, and they're going to pick up the market rate in year 2 when they sign a new lease. That's the assumption, is that they're going to have a new lease. And so what I'm going to do is refer to the market rate for the time that they sign that lease, and they're going to sign a new lease for $19. Now their lease is going to stay at $19. It's a flat lease, and so I'm going to continue that for the next few years. I'm going to get rid of the bold, but I am going to put a little color here to indicate that this lease it's changing at that time. It's something special is happening at that time. For Ypsilanti, we're told that their lease is going to expire at the end of year 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put out the next 2 years. And then in year 4, they're going to also reset to the market. So I'm going to refer up to the market rate of $20 a square foot. And then year 5, it's going to be the same. So we're going to have a flat lease. I'm going to get rid of the bold and highlight the special time where they change their lease rates. And then for Zephyr, they're staying at $18 a square foot for all 5 years. So let me just go ahead and copy that across, get rid of the bold, and there's nothing to highlight there because their lease is set for all 5 years. So we've got the leasing assumptions in, and so now I can go over here to the cash flow projection side and get some more specific dollars that are in here. So for Xantham, I'm going to refer over to their square feet, and I'm going to hit F4 to lock that cell to make it an absolute reference. I'm going to change that in a minute, but I'll show you what I do. And then I'm going to refer to the year 1 rent because we're in the year 1 column. I'll refer back over to the assumptions where the year 1 rent is, hit enter, and I can copy them all the way across, and that's going to work. It's just going to take Xantham square feet, multiply it by the appropriate year's rental rate. Now what I'd really like to do is copy this down now to Ypsilanti and Zephyr, but my absolute reference is going to mess things up. So I'm going to change this reference not to be locked on cell B6, but I want it to stay in column B. So to do that, I'm going to toggle through and just make sure I have a $ in front of the B. So if I hit F4, that changes what the absolute reference is, whether it's locked row, locked column, or locked row and column. Right now it's a floating reference. It's a relative reference. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F4. Right now it's locked in that cell. I'm going to hit F4 once more. It's locked on the row, and I want to lock it on the column, so I'm going to hit F4 one more time, and that changes it to $B and then 6. So let me copy that now across and make sure all my results stay the same, and they do. And now I'm going to copy that down 2 rows. So I'm going to hit copy, and I'm going to do a paste special and do formula only so I can keep my formatting. And there, let's just double check. Let's pick one of these and just double check that it's working right. Zephyr's rental income in year 4 is indeed the 12,500 square feet times the $18 a square foot. So the formulas are working right. Now I need to just add that stuff up for my gross potential gross income, the PGI, and I've got those numbers across the board. Okay, now we're told that the vacancy and collection loss is going to be 5%. So what I'm going to do is just take a negative, refer to that cell. I'm going to hit F4 to lock it because that's absolute all the way across the board. And then I'm going to multiply it times the potential gross income. So that's what we're doing with our Vacancy loss, we're going to multiply that times the potential gross income. I'm going to multiply that all the way across, or copy that all the way across. And then if I take the sum of these two cells, I will have my effective gross income. So if I just highlight that whole area, copy that all the way across with a Control-C and a Control-V to paste, I've got my effective gross income all settled. Okay, we're given a few other things with income. We've got some rooftop income. I'm going to refer over here to the rooftop lease and the storage lease. And both of those are not changing over time, so I can do a couple of things. I could go back in here and hit F4 to make that an absolute reference once more. Or I could also make this cell refer to the previous year. So that way it's not going to change. So either way, I'm going to have the same rental or the same other income all the way across. And if these cells change, then that's going to flow through to my spreadsheet. And that's the whole purpose, the whole idea of these spreadsheets, is that when these particular cells change, it flows through to everything that we're doing. So if I change that to $10,000 a year, that flows through to my calculations. And then for the last thing for income, we're just going to add up the other income all the way up to the effective gross income. And if I, again, copy and paste that, Control-C to Control-V, I get that as my total income for the property, and we are good on the revenue side. Moving on to the expenses, we're, again, given a lot of information over here. We've got the first year's expenses, and we also are given the operating expense inflation. So for the first year, I can just refer over here to these inputs, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that down, these first few cells. The management fee is a little bit different. It's equal to 4%, so I'm going to, again, refer to my assumptions. It's 4% of the total income, so I'm going to refer to that cell. And by the way, I should go ahead and lock F4, that B27 cell, the input assumption. And now I can copy this particular cell across. And actually, why don't I go ahead and do that? Because this is not going to be the same as some of the other expenses. For property taxes and the other three expenses below it, we're told that that's going to grow at an expense inflation rate of 2.5%. So what I can do is refer to the previous cell, multiply it times 1 plus the inflation rate of 2.5%. I'm going to hit the F4 key to lock that in, and I do indeed get the 2.5% growth right there, and I can copy that down to each of these cells, and it's growing at the appropriate rate, 2.5%. If I copy that now all the way across, I've got my expenses inflating over time, and so everything looks good. The one different one here is the management fee, and again, that's just 4% of total income. My total expenses are going to simply be the sum of all the expenses. And once I get that, I can copy that all the way across, and I've got my expenses. NOI is just going to be the difference between income and expenses. Again, I can copy that across for all 5 years. And I've now got my income statement. Looks like we're going to be able to do this in one brief video. All right, the capital expenditures, I say that, now it's going to get a little bit more complicated. The CapEx, we got three different categories. One is the property improvements, and then the others are TIs and leasing commissions. So the property improvements, we're told over here that we've got nothing in year 1. We're not going to have anything in year 2, $45,000 in year 3, etc. So I've already kind of put in the information that we want. So I'm just going to basically refer to each of those annual cells, and I get that over here in my yearly pro forma. The TIs are a little bit different. We're told that it's $8 a square foot in this cell, and now we need to look and see when leasing activity is happening. And that's actually going to happen in these two cells, or these two columns, these 2 years, with those 2 leases. Xantham is going to have a new lease in place in year 2. Ypsilanti is going to have a new lease in place in year 4. So that's the time that these TIs are going to kick in. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to refer to the dollars per square foot of 8. I'm going to multiply that times the square feet for Xantham, which is 7,500. And that's it. $60,000 in that year. And then in year 4, we're going to have a similar type of calculation where we multiply $8 a square foot times the square feet for Ypsilanti, which is $10 a square foot. So I've got $80,000 that year. Now again, that's going to change if I change this input. That reflects in my cash flow numbers. So that's always a good thing in the spreadsheet, where you can change assumptions and it reflects in the results or the output of your spreadsheet. Last thing is the leasing commissions. That's going to be 5% of the total rents for those new spaces. And we assume that all leases are 5 years. So I'll again use a formula here. I'm going to refer to the 5%. I'm going to refer to the square feet. I'm going to refer to the new rental rate. So that would be 5% of 1 year's rent. Of course, 1 year's rent is going to be the square feet times the rent per square foot. But you pay commissions on the first 5 years of the lease. So I need to do this one other step, multiply it times 5. And so that will be the commission on all 5 years of rental payments. And then for Ypsilanti, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to refer to 5% times the Ypsilanti square feet times the Ypsilanti rental rate times 5 for 5 years. And so that is the leasing commissions. And so to get my total capital, I'm just going to sum these 3 items. So I've got some actual capital expenditures just in years 2, 3, and 4. My property cash flow is going to be the difference between the net operating income and the CapEx. So I'll copy and paste that formula all the way across. And so this is my property cash flow. We're now down to the last step here. We're going to do the disposition. So my gross sales price is going to be equal to the year 5 income, and we're told specifically, this is not kind of the normal way of doing things, but we're told specifically down here in the bottom left that the disposition is based on year 5's NOI at a cap rate of 7.25. So we're going to take year 5's NOI, which is right here, the 406,077. I'm going to divide that by the exit cap rate of 7.25, and so I get gross proceeds of a little bit over $5.6 million. I'm told that I've got legal costs of $50,000, so I'm going to put a little negative there and refer to the sale, so that shows that that's a cost. I've got selling commissions. It's going to be 4% of the gross sales price, so I'm going to refer to the sale of with the selling commission. Also refer to the sale that has the gross sales price, and I've got a commission amount of $224,000. My net proceeds is going to be the sum then of these 3 sales. So we're going to sell it and walk away with $5.3 million. Last thing is my unleveraged cash flows. I can again create a little formula here and just add up all of this stuff. Of course, for years 1 through 4, that's all 0. Oh no, this isn't a good formula as I look at year 5. What I really want to have is this plus that. So if I do that all the way across and then look in particular at year 5, I can see that I am indeed adding up the 2 appropriate cells. So these are my cash flows, and from there I can get IRRs and NPVs and other kind of metrics. Let's just real quickly, actually we'd have to assume some sales prices. So we can do other things once we have this one boiled down set of cash flows for the property. So this is how you get there with the spreadsheet, and hopefully this helps you out. We'll see you next time.